Today, we are going to be going through my 2025 reading journal, so get cozy because this might be a long one. The very first thing we see when we open my journal is my cover page, and let's rectify the fact that this is not filled in. Okay, that is all set. So the very first thing we have when we flip open is the table of contents page. I don't typically use this because everything I do is in chronological order anyways, but the journal came with it, so I filled it in. I did use it as a little bit of a pen test later in the year. And then we get into the first spread of the journal. So I have my little cheat sheet here where I give myself how big the dot grid is on each page. And this is my beautiful cover page because I have a fear of messing up. And especially on the first page of a journal, this fear is exacerbated. So I just wrote reading journal in pencil, and that's my cover page. Now, I started this journal, as you can see, in October of 2024 because I had recently gotten out of a relationship and I had so much time on my hands, and I figured if I'm going to be reading that much anyway, and journaling is another one of my passions as well, why not combine the two and give myself a reading journal? It just made sense for me. And I didn't want to wait until the new year rolled around, so I just bought this notebook off Amazon for like $5 and got some markers that I already had at home, and I just DIY'd. You're going to notice that my reading journal does not look like a lot of the other reading journals that you probably see, especially here on YouTube. Everyone kind of has the same setup. I feel like everyone prints out their book covers, everyone gives each book an entire page to itself and does a lot of ephemera and washi tape and stickers and a lot of consumables to sum it all up. And I don't do stuff like that. I just basically use markers and pens. I'm not trying to say that I'm better than them, but I'm just trying to say, especially if you're trying to do a reading journal on a budget, I feel like this is more approachable, to say the bare minimum. So anyways, as you can see, my very first page spread ever, and it's not centered and it's not even the most pretty, but hey, doesn't have to be perfect. So now we move into the actual content of the reading journal. And when I first started this journal, the only thing that I knew was that I wanted to have a reading calendar. So I made a stats page and I made a reading calendar, and I was like, I will figure it out as I go. And I did just that. So eventually in October, as you can see, my little pages read tracker over here, we're gonna get to that. Eventually, throughout the month of October, as I read books, I would just add them onto my list of books read. And then I did a stats page. This stats page is a staple. You're gonna see this throughout the entire rest of the journal. But as I said, about midway through October, I figured I wanted something more because the reading calendar doesn't really tell the full story. Because look, it took me so long to read certain books, but I was like, yeah, but I'm not reading every single book on every single day. So I wanted something a little bit more granular that would paint a more accurate picture of my reading habits. So I started doing a pages read tracker, which has quickly become my favorite thing that I do in my reading journal. Let me turn this so you can see. So as you can see, I started it on October 23rd, and I did like a week of tracking my pages read. And what I do is I just write down this information on the notes app of my phone, and then I fill it into the journal later. So I'm not having to come in every single day with my markers and color in however many pages I read. A lot of times I'll go into my journal like once a week and just do it all at once. So after we do the reading calendar, I have my books entering and books leaving the month, which I still do to this day. We go into my book review pages. So this is how I started doing my book reviews. They are very same, like they're all portioned out with the exact same amount of space. The only thing that differs is the info box and the size of that. I was using a little star stencil to do my star ratings. And I was, again, just giving a couple journal-ish sentences about like what happened in the book or how it made me feel. Nothing fancy. And this is it, because we move into November straight after. So this was how I started writing my book reviews. And as you can see, I wasn't really sure of how I wanted to start this. So I just pick and chose, and it gets better as we move on. As you can see, November, it's a bit more centered, it's a bit more polished. Again, there's empty space, but I'm trying to do this without spending a ton of money. So yeah, all it is markers and washi tape, which you can find for pretty cheap. In November, we have the exact same deal. We have my stats page. Again, I was writing this list of books read as the month was going on. So as I finished a book, I would come into my reading journal and mark it down on my books read list. We have the same deal. My reading calendar, this is again a staple. And you will see this is the only DNF I have in the entire reading journal. The other notable thing in November is that I turned my reading calendar on its side, because in October, as we saw, this tiny little calendar, I did not like it. I wanted my boxes to be square, but it just wouldn't fit width-wise with it in the vertical format. So we had to turn it on its side, which it really doesn't bother me. I just like having my calendar boxes be squares, and it just gives me a little bit more room to write things. And here is the first iteration of my pages read tracker. This is the exact same way I do it now. And I have my pages read bar graph, but as you can see, each square on this bar graph is 15 pages read. Nowadays, I do 20 pages read because there were quite a few days, and you're gonna see it in December too, there were quite a few days where I read off the chart, and I just figured, you know, I should change my scale. So again, pages read bar graph, pages read list. This is kind of the format you will see for the next 13 months. I was doing my book reviews in the exact same way I did them in October, so very sectioned out book review where every book gets the exact same amount of room, and the only thing that changes is the size of the info box. I updated this to be a 5-star, but I don't feel like going back in and changing it. But this book was really good, A Song to Drown Rivers. And again, in November, I had my only DNF of my entire reading journal. This book it was a sequel, and it just wasn't what I wanted it to be, so I DNF'd at like, I don't know, maybe 25%. Yeah. Then we moved into December, which I feel like this is one of my favorite cover pages of the journal entire. Like, this just pleases my eye so much. It's like all of the letters are the exact same size. It's so perfect, it's balanced. I love the washi tape I chose with the little Christmas decorations or presents down at the bottom, and then more floral and seasonal decorations up at the top. I don't know. This cover page is like one of my favorites. And we have the exact same stats page that we have been using, same reading calendar format. This is getting a little messy because I read so many books in December of 2024 that I could not fit them all with the size of my handwriting that I was doing at this time. Again, my pages read list, my pages read bar graph, and as you can see, there were 5 days where I read off the chart. And so I was like, yeah, I need to change my scale, because as you can see down here, it still says 15 15 pages per square. So I was like, yeah, I need to change my scale because I can't keep doing this. In the book reviews, I was just consuming a lot of media in December, and so there were a lot of books where I didn't really fill up the boxes. In past months, I like made it a point to fill up the entire box, except for that one. That book wasn't that good. But in December, because I was reading so much and I was doing so much, the reviews themselves kind of took the back burner, and I was more focused on reading and doing things other than reviewing the books. But I will say I love this washi tape combo that I put on all of my book review pages. It's quite festive. I really like it. This is a spoiler, but we get into the end of my December book reviews and we move into my 2025 reading goals. I did not do a 2024 reading wrap-up or anything similar because I only started tracking my reads in October, and I was like, 3 months of reading is just not worth it to do like an end-of-year analysis or anything like that. So for my 2025 goals, let me move my sticky note really quick. I wanted to read a book longer than 1,000 pages, which I did with Atlas Shrugged. I wanted to read 2 nonfiction books, and I read 9 total. So this is my supplemental nonfiction information. And these are the other 5 books plus the 4 on here. So those are the 9 nonfiction books I read. I wanted to visit 3 different libraries, which I did. I wanted to finish the Outlander series, which I did not do. I wanted to read 2 physical books per month, which I absolutely crushed. I think there was only 1 month, I think it was September, where I really only read 2 physical books, and all of the other months I read at least 3, which is my goal for 2026, is to read 3 physical books per month. So I met pretty much all of my goals except for finishing Outlander, which I rolled into 2026. We have my classics TBR, which my unwritten goal was to read 25 classics, which I completed. You can see the ones that are colored in are the ones that I read. This little section up here would be my classic rereads, classics that I've read before. So I just wanted to keep them separate. But I reread 4 classics, but they were really good ones. Then we have my year in pixels, which if you've seen any of my other reading journal videos, you have seen the year in pixels. I did decide to color in my average page range. I feel like this gives a really nice parabolic overview of my reading trends. As you can see, the summer months were not great. Of course, you can see that in the year in pixels itself, this like light green ombre that we have towards the center. But I just keep track of all the pages I read per day, as you can gather by the fact that I have bar graphs every month. And then I just write that information here and I color it in at the end of the month. Now we have my bookshelf page. I have all the information here, so you can pause and read, but I am going to narrate over it. So my bookshelf page, you see this in pretty much every reading journal on the internet. The way that I track my books on my bookshelf, each month of the year has its own color family, and then within that color family, each format gets its own color. The length of the book is how big it is on the bookshelf, and then the lines on the spine are for the star rating. So let's pick a book. Let's pick this one because I know what it is. This was Atlas Shrugged. I read it as an audiobook and I gave it 3 stars. Let's pick another one that I know what it is. This was Iron Flame. I read it in January as a physical book and I gave it 2 stars. I'm pretty sure this was Onyx Storm. I read it in February as a physical book and gave it 3 stars. So as you can see, there's like quite a few books that I can pick out and be like, I know exactly what book that was, because the information on this gets pretty granular. And as you can see down here, I read 176 books in 2025. Then I have my master list of books read. So again, this is color coded by month. And so like this gold color is January, this pink color is February, etc., etc. And I just track the title and author, what month I read the book, obviously. And that's pretty much it. This is just a long list of all of the books that I read. And I thought I was going to fill up this page, but I did not. Now we have my 2025 in review. Ignore that I said that I read 178. I was just getting very overzealous with my stencils that I used, and 7 and 8 were next to each other, and I just picked the 8. And of course I have JK, it's 176. So my favorite fiction book of the year was Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver, which is so funny because I read that in like the first week of January 2025, and it held the top spot for like 360 days. Like, it's still probably, obviously it's still my favorite fiction book of 2025. My favorite nonfiction book was Know My Name by Chanel Miller, and again, kind of funny because I read this in February, so it held the top spot for 11 months. My best reading month was January. I read 20 books. My worst reading month was June. I read 5 books, and most of them were not good. The longest book was Atlas Shrugged with 1,168 pages. The shortest book was The Gift by Frida McFadden, which was a holiday short story. It was 47 pages. I read 25 classics this year. I read 21 books with Noelle, who is my reading buddy. We tend to do a lot of buddy reads together. Most of them are really bad books, which makes it a lot more fun. I averaged 14.6 books per month. I saved $2,568.43 by supporting my local library system, and I visited 3 different branches this year. I read on 361 days, only 4 days I did not read, and I filled up every single page of this reading journal. I even had to add extra pages for some reviews, which you will see in a moment. According to Goodreads, my average star rating was 3.4. They don't take partial stars into account, but I added up all my books manually and got 3.39, which is hilarious to me. I read 9 nonfiction books. My top 3 classics were Emma by Jane Austen, The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, and To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This is my average star rating by month, and I did not reach my goal of 200 books, and next year my goal will be 150 because I think I will be able to reach that. And now we move into January 2025. I love this cover page. It's pretty maximalist. There's a lot going on washi tape wise, but I got some washi tape for Christmas in 2024, and so I was like kind of went crazy with it, and I just plastered the cover page with washi tape. I don't know why, I just also love this like cursive and capital print together. I don't know, it does something aesthetically for me. I really enjoy it. And now we move into a little bit of a different format. So in months previous, we had my stats page as the very first page, but I decided to do my reading calendar and my bar graph next to each other because they use the same markers, so it was really convenient for me to do one and the other at the same time. It was also very easy for me to cross-reference and say, what the heck was this book? And then I can look it up on my reading calendar because they share the same color, and I can know exactly what book, like I know this was Iron Flame. I can look at what book I was reading based on color. Pretty easy. And as you can see, I changed my scale so each square is 20 pages read. I then have my pages read list and my January stats as the final page before my reviews. I still do pretty much all the same information, the amount of books, the format, my favorite book. Demon Copperhead definitely won out in the long term, but Elantris I read towards the end of the month, so it was like very fresh in my mind, and it got 5 stars. That's probably still my favorite Brandon Sanderson book. Then we have my reviews, which are in the same format that I did them in 2024, except instead of stenciling out all the stars and taking up a lot of room, I just put the number and the star stencil. So again, I read 20 books this month, so we have a lot of pages of reviews to get through. And then we move into February. Again, I'm doing the cursive and the capital print. I don't know, it does something for me. I think it's so beautiful. So we have my February cover page. Again, the same format of my reading calendar and my bar graph right next to each other for easy cross-reference. My pages read list and my February stats. This is like the most beautiful cursive I've ever done this February right here. I don't know what came over me, what possessed my pen. Look at the stats too, like that just, I'm not the best cursive writer. Like this looks very childish to me, but this looks good. I also started calculating my total pages read. I did really well for February. Holy crap, 7,000 pages? That's a little insane. And I changed the way I did my book reviews because, as you could see in January, especially, I had to use so many pages for all my book reviews, and based on the page count in my journal, I was going to run out of room by like June if I kept up the same reading pace. And so I was like, okay, we have to go in the opposite extreme and give myself 1 page for my February book reviews. So I have all of the books that I read in February plus a little extra. And really I only did like 1 to 2 sentences about each book, and my handwriting looks so ugly here, so pardon that. Then we have March. Again, I was trying to go in the other extreme and give myself 1 cover page for March. Also, it was just a very short month name, so I did not need a full spread for it. I only needed 1 page, but again, with my little cursive and print, it looks so good. We have the same format with my reading calendar and my pages read bar graph. Again, my pages read list and my March stats. I love 6606, beautiful. We have, again, my March book reviews where I was trying to go in the opposite extreme. I think I wrote on both sides of this. Yeah, I had a lot more to say in March. But then we have April, which again, I don't know, I really love. Very simple, but I really like this. We have my reading calendar, my pages read bar graph. As you can tell, I really love this system. It works for me. It's exactly the information that I want to know when I look back in my reading journal. My pages read list and my April stats. Also, this list of books read section, I don't know why it's so neat. I think it's because most of the books I read had fairly short titles, and so I was able to really segregate my columns instead of having them all mixed together. Again, great reading month, nearly 8,000 pages. I don't know what pen I was using here, but this also just strikes my fancy. Like, this looks so neat to me for some reason. Again, we have my single page book review plus a little extra tip in. And then we move on to May. Again, I don't know, I really like this the dots on the letters. I think it's very summery and cute. Where I live, May is still not quite summer. Like, we can still have some pretty cold days in May, but I was trying to convince myself that it was summertime. I really like this little thing that I did here with like the highlighted letters of the month in the empty space of the calendar. You'll see me do this for a couple months in a row. But in May, I started my seasonal job, so I had a lot less reading time. Let's compare this to a different month. Like April versus May, it's just such a different vibe, and you can kind of see by like the colors I picked too. They're all pretty like dark and moody colors. Like, I was just not feeling it this month compared to this month, which is like, also there's some dark books, but there's a lot of like light colors that I chose as well, which I feel like is very indicative of my mental state. But May, we just had, apparently was a very dark time. Again, I started my seasonal job, so I did not have as much time to read. I was also just reading books that I was not enjoying, like Shadow of the Night I didn't like, Atlas Shrugged I started, which took up forever, 63-hour-long audiobook, insane. I was reading the Iliad, which was taking up a lot of my mental capacity. There was just a lot of factors going on all at the same time that made me just not want to read things. And I was able to fit all of my reviews on a single page with no extra help. Now we have June, which again, I love this cover page. It's so simple, but it's so summery at the same time. I just think it looks really nice to me. And again, we have this little highlighted cursive thing going on. I don't know, I just really was enjoying that. But as you can see, again, I was working my seasonal job. I was reading Atlas Shrugged, which is all of this gray, which is the perfect color for that book. What a bore. I started reading Mistborn, which was like the one bright light in the darkness. But I did not have a ton of time. And when I did have time to read, I was reading Atlas Shrugged, which just turned me off reading. So I did not get many books read this month. I did not read many pages this month. As you can see, I only finished 5 books. The standout book was Mistborn. Everything else really sucked. Here are all my book reviews, again, because there was only 5. They really fit on one page. And then we move into July, which again, this color combination I picked is just like so summery. I really enjoy it. And especially like with this little like confetti washi tape, it's just giving me beach vibes. Again, I have my little highlighted cursive. I continued the Mistborn saga this month. I read Hero of Ages, which is that book changed my life. I would recommend reading Mistborn just for the 3rd book. Like it was really good. This book, The Book of Life, I did not enjoy. The Sword of Kaigan was fine. I'm getting too specific now, but you can see the Hero of Ages like almost brought me out of a reading slump. Like after I finished it, I started reading so much more because I was looking for a book that was as good as that, which I did not find. But it, like I said, it really just like brought me out of my slump because the ending was so good. Again, same deal. I forgot I was doing a Song of Achilles reread because I was listening to it when I was working out as my like audiobook distraction of the pain of working out. And it took me 2 months to read it, which is kind of why I forgot that I was also doing that. So technically I've finished 10 books this month, but only 9 new ones. I have all of my July book reviews, and I think, yeah, the only 5-star book that I read was The Hero of Ages, and everything else was just kind of whatever. We have August, which again, I keep gassing myself up about these cover pages, but this is just like so calming to me. The washi tape combination that I picked is very ethereal and dreamy. I was trying to like, again, encourage myself to read more in August because I read one single good book in July that kind of lit a fire under me to continue my reading journey. Again, we have my little highlighted cursive. This month was a little bit better. This is my Twilight reread. My Twilight reread because if you don't know, I have a business where I dye yarn, and I released a Twilight inspired yarn collection for the 20th anniversary of the book, so I read the book in one day. To kind of celebrate that. We have Warbreaker, which is another Brandy Sandy. The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang stands out to me here. I'm really not a fan of that series. But yeah, we have some good and some bad. I'm pretty sure, yeah, this is audiobooks up here. I was like, I don't think I had that much time on my hands. My seasonal job ends at the end of August, so September will be a little bit of a better reading month. But again, just all of my stats, the total pages that I read. I was doing quite a few buddy reads this month with my friend Noelle, so that did also help me increase my total books read, because having a buddy to read some bad books with can sometimes also help get you out of a little bit of a reading slump. Now, I have 2 full pages of my August book reviews, and you're gonna see this type of format endure throughout the rest of the year. This sort of like organic, varied review size that I have. Like some books really don't require a lot of words to describe, and then some books have a lot more intricacies to say, to pick a word out of thin air. I realized I had a lot more pages than I thought I did remaining, so I gave myself 2 full pages for August, and then in the rest of the year, I believe I give myself 3, and it like budgets perfectly. Moving into September, again, I have a lot more time on my hands starting in the fall with September, so we have a little bit of a different setup here, again, because I gave myself 2 pages in August. It kind of messed up the flow that I had. So we no longer have the calendar and pages read list facing each other, or pages read bar graph, I should say. We have the list and the bar graph facing each other, which I also like because it's, again, pretty easy to cross-reference. Like I can say, what the heck did I read on September 14th? And say, oh, it was You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Ginny Burrows. So I do like this system. I don't know which I prefer between having the calendar here or the pages read list here. It's kind of a toss-up, but in January 2026, I do have it set up this way. We then move on into my book reviews, and again, we have more of that organic sort of vibe where it's just like a brain dump. Like I said, I gave myself 3 pages. Then I have my September stats. I started using a couple different color pens because, again, I'm trying to insert some joy into my life. But again, it's just all the same stats that I track, that I've been tracking for the past 12 months. And now we have October, which this is another top contender for my favorite cover page. My little pumpkin that I put in the O is just so dang cute to me. But again, my pages read calendar, my pages read list. This brown ink had me in a chokehold since like August. I incorporate it so much in both this journal and like my feelings, my personal journal that I keep. This brown ink took over the entire 3rd and 4th quarter of the year. But again, as you can see by my bar graph, we had a pretty good reading month in October. I had a lot more time on my hands to do some reading. And you can see, I think my average was like maybe in the high 200s of pages read per day. Again, my brown ink book reviews. I love this ink so much. And I read so many books in October that I had to do a little tip in to get the last couple reviews included in there because I just really ran out of room. I just had a lot to say, I guess. I read 18 books. Here's my little list of books. 6633, average 214 a day. I also did have some really good books that I read this year, like Emma by Jane Austen I read, which was, again, one of my favorite classics of the year. And now we move into November. Again, we have my November reading calendar. It looks really chunky, like really full, which I love. We have, again, my pages read list. That brown ink makes an appearance again. My pages read bar graph. This book, whatever it was, threw me off. What the heck was this book? Oh my gosh, this was Under the Banner of Heaven by Jon Krakauer, which is a nonfiction book that I gave 5 stars and really recommend, but it's just a lot mentally to take in, so it kind of threw me into a little bit of a slump, but after I finished it, as you can see, things got better. We have my November book reviews, which is the first month that I started doing my alternating colors, which I really like, so I'm going to continue this in 2026, but I had a lot to say this month. All of my writing is so teeny tiny. I had a lot to say. And then we have my November stats again. Again, that brown ink, can't get away from it. I read 16 books, 5,817 total pages. I read a lot of good books and a lot of really bad books. Like, it was very split. Like, I didn't read mid books, I only read good or bad. And now we have December, which if you've been following along my Vlogmas, this will be very familiar to you. We have kind of an empty reading calendar, but a pretty full pages read bar graph. Again, at the end of the year, I was like really crushing books to make sure that I reached my reading goal, which I didn't, but I'm fine with that. We have my very Christmassy color scheme for my book reviews, which is a little bit garish, but it's Christmas, so I'm fine with it. We continue my garish color scheme, my Christmas color scheme, with my December stats. I again read 18 books this month. I have my little favorite books, worst books, 6,482 pages for an average of 209 per day. Again, I read like, I feel like my rating trended from mid to bad. Like, I didn't have very many good books this month. And we're almost at the very, very end. So I have my best list of 2025 chronological. So my favorite books of January, let me just read them out to you. We have Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver, which again is my favorite book of the entire year. I Who Have Never Known Men, Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. I think, again, my favorite Brandon Sanderson book. All Quiet on the Western Front, To Kill a Mockingbird, Know My Name, 15 Dogs, The Poisonwood Bible, Yellowface, Sunrise on the Reaping, Blood over Brighthaven, 1984, The Hero of Ages, The Song of Achilles, which was a reread, but it had to go on my favorite books list. I did not read anything good in August, but The Bell Jar, Killers of the Flower Moon, Mistborn Secret History, Emma, Under the Banner of Heaven, again, nonfiction, gave it 5 stars. A Clockwork Orange, The Outsiders, In Cold Blood, nonfiction, 5 stars. The Buffalo Hunter, and Christmas Carol. And those were my top books. But I will be doing a more in-depth video of all of my 5-star books, which some of them don't make this list. This last page is my personal dictionary. So anytime I come across a book, or anytime I come across a word I don't know in a book that I'm reading, I look it up, take a screenshot, save it on my phone, and then I come into my reading journal and I write down the word and its definition. So a lot of these words I can just tell what book it came from. Like genuflect, I know came from Outlander. But yeah, so it's just a lot of words that I don't know, and I look them up and put the definition in here, which I don't know, I really enjoy doing because I read to expand my brain. So having my own personal dictionary, it just works for me. And yeah, as you can see, like, that's it. That's the end. So let me know your thoughts on my reading journal, if you have your own reading journal, if there was anything that stood out to you, if you want to know more about a certain book or anything, let me know your thoughts in the comments. But for now, I will leave you because I have a feeling this was extremely long. But I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you soon.